Rahim. So we came here to Zaid bin Harisa radiallahu anhu. So Zaid radiallahu anhu, he was from Yemen. He was a 5-year-old boy. And his parents were from 2 different tribes in Yemen. And the people from Yemen were generally taken as slaves. And his mother and father were from 2 different tribes. And those 2 tribes were always having civil war. So one day his mother took him towards her tribe where she wanted to visit her own family. And while she was en route on that journey, the father's tribe people saw them traveling. So what they did? They abducted him and they let her go. And they take him to the big market of slaves. It was known as the market of Okaf. And they sold this boy as a slave. And then the person who bought him was a cousin of Khadija radiallahu anha. Because Khadija said, I need a young boy, like we also, Most South Africans can't tolerate living in England or Australia. Why? Because they haven't got slaves. So they also in Saudi Arabia at the time, Khadija gave her cousin Hakim bin Hizam 400 dinars at the time. And he said, look for me a nice young boy that can do all the work in my house. So Hakim bin Hizam is a unique person in the sense that he had a very good eye for a good slave. So he walked around the market and he found this boy and he said, this boy will sort myself out. He himself, Hakim bin Hizam, is one of the unique people who lived to 120 years. He lived 60 years as a disbeliever, and when the Prophet ﷺ came, he accepted Islam and he lived for 60 years as a Muslim. And the unique thing about this man is one of those few people who was born inside the Kaaba. Hakim bin Hizam, cousin of Khadija. He's the man who found this young boy. So here they brought this boy. Khadija takes the boy. He says, right, the boy will do all my household chores. And then Khadija, the Prophet ﷺ was a shepherd. And the Prophet ﷺ took a herd of sheep for her sister. And when he was so amazingly good with the sheep, and he was so modest, so then the sister of Khadija, her name was Hala, she said to Khadija, I have never met a person in my life who is so modest when it comes to women like Muhammad. Khadija was married twice. The first time, her husband passed away and left children. The second time, the husband passed away and left no children. In those times in Saudi Arabia, the women could not inherit at all. Unless it was such a situation where the husband passed away and there was no children and there's no parents involved, then could only the wife inherit. Today, the ladies are not inheriting because the men are usurping the inheritance. That's what's happening today. So here Khadija inherits a big fortune. She's a very wealthy person. Then she says, I've got journeys to Syria and back in business. Why don't I take on the Prophet ﷺ as to do my business? The Prophet ﷺ has got no experience as a businessman. And those days, if you take on a manager, what happens to your shop? Your shop goes down because you're not there managing it. So every year when she sent people on the trip to Syria to do the business for her, the people came back, they were totally bankrupt. And they didn't make much profit. This year, when she tell the Prophet ﷺ to go to Syria and to do her business, the Prophet ﷺ, with all the barakat he is carrying, she makes a massive profit. And now, not only because of his honesty, but because of his barakat as well, Allah puts the inclination towards marrying the Prophet ﷺ in her heart. So she sends the message via Nafisa, an older lady, that she's inclined to get married to the Prophet ﷺ, and then the proposal is accepted, and Khadija marries the Prophet ﷺ. So when there was a marriage taking place between 2 parties, then there's always, what do we call it? The bridal gifts or the marital gifts, the exchanges. What do we call it in our customs? Oh, the kunchas. The kunchas. They send from the men's side the gift, and from the ladies' side you get the gift, and like that there's exchange of things. So Khadija radiallahu anha, she married the Prophet ﷺ. She was extremely wealthy. And the Prophet ﷺ, he was an ordinary shepherd. In fact, he was born to Abdullah, who had passed away before he was born. And his grandfather was Abdul Muttalib. And there was no wealth in the family. So Khadija radiallahu anha, she had the upper hand in the sense that she was more wealthy. So she gave the Prophet ﷺ a marital gift. What did she give? Zaid. She gave Zaid the gift.